Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the Mikestand in the daylight normal time um part of the year. For the next 4 months, of course, this past weekend we just fell back an hour. You know, many I'm sure many of you enjoyed the extra rest. Also, don't forget that tomorrow's election day. Don't forget to go out and vote when you guys have a chance. Anyways, I'm gonna take care of a couple things real quick. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn on some music, take care of those things while I do that. Also, just waiting around to see who else might show up. So with that being said, let me get the music on for you guys. And I will be right back. All right. Well, anyways, hopefully, hopefully some more people show up soon here. All right. So we're just waiting around for see if more people show up. Um. Anyways, hopefully everybody had a nice weekend. I'm sure you all appreciate the extra hour of sleep you got. As Saturday night, of course, we did, fall back an hour as daylight savings time came to an end. Um, so, what else is going on? Let's see. Let's see now. Gummy bears bouncing here and there and everywhere. Find adventure that's beyond compare. They are the gummy bears. They are the gummy bears. Well, looks like we're already past 7 minutes here, so that's. I guess it's good time to. When we hit the 8 minute mark, it was just at 7.5 minutes now. So when we hit the 8 minute mark, we will go ahead and we'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and go over what's on tap for tonight here. And it actually is now 8 minutes. So, all right. So, what's on tap for tonight? Well, we got 4 articles we're going to go over, 3 from Bounding into Comics and 1 from Critical Blast Site, including, of course, one of the bigger stories come out over the weekend. Veteran LA-based voice actor Jameson Price has chosen not to reprise his role of Chad from Bleach. He chose not to audition, as he has recently revealed that he no longer auditions for roles of people of color. Yeah, we've been hearing a lot of that the last 2 or 3 years, so we'll be talking a little bit about that. Also, we got some news from Lucasfilm, as the former director of publishing reveals that George Lucas had told her that the Emperor would never have been cloned. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Let's see, what else are we going to cover here? Oh, yes, and the guy who I guess wrote One Punch Man and Mob Psycho 100 has announced a new fantasy battle series called Versus. We'll see all that. Plus, we're going to go over an article from Critical Blast talking about Indiegogo. RJ wrote an article, RJ Carter, Critical Blast. We'll be going over that one as well. So, without any further ado, and then of course we have the wrestling roundup. We got some big wrestling news coming on the horizon. Of course, including talking a little bit about what happened in Saudi Arabia this last weekend. With the Crown Jewel event. Obviously, this weekend, this Saturday, the 12th. NWA has Hard Times. We'll be going over that card, talking about some, and also AEW and Impact Wrestling news as well. So, with all that, and of course, this day in each history as well. So, with all that, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so let's get into the first article we talked about here, and this one was, and I know a lot of you will even even like Yellow Flash and Hero Hey, Hero Hey, of course, who does cover a lot of anime stuff. We're talking about this too. Um, Now, for those of you who don't know Jameson Bryce, he's a longtime LA-based voice actor. He's been around. He's done work for 30, 35 plus years. Aside from, of course, Chad from Bleach. Let's see. I know one. I know a couple of the other roles he did. He actually did in the original in Hashirama Senju's first set of appearances in the Naruto series. He did that voice. He it's kind of one of those funny things. He and Peter Lorre, so they ended up switching roles later on. So when Hashirama Senju and Tobirama Senju made their first appearances in Naruto, when they did the English dub, Jameson Price did Hashirama and Peter Lorre did Tobirama. Then what ended up happening is when they, in later appearances, they ended up switching. So Jameson took over Tobirama's voice and is doing it, of course, in Shippuden and in the fourth Shinobi War arc. And then Peter Lorre did Hashirama. So, and among other things, and I know like he did Fukuzawa, I believe, and Bungo Stray Dogs, guy who heads up the agency. And for those of you who probably do watch the English dubs on a regular basis, you know his voice. It's pretty distinct. So, anyways, let's go ahead and get into this article. So, Bleach dub voice actor Jameson Price reveals he declined to return as Chad in Thousand Year Blood War because he, quote, no longer auditions for roles of people of color. Okay. Yeah. It's kind of just a bad take overall, and I'll probably get into it as we look into this stuff. Article by Spencer McCauley, published this past Friday, the November the 4th. All right, so storied anime and video game voice actor Jameson Price has revealed that he declined. He should say he declined to reprise the role reprise his role as Yatsu Tora Chad Sato in Bleach Thousand Year Blood War because he quote unquote no longer auditions for non-white characters. Now this is kind of a ridiculous take because here's the first off, he's dubbing so that English anime fans can sit there comfortably and be able to listen and follow the story as opposed to having to stop every few minutes to read a subtitle. You can't, not everybody has speed reading capabilities and can sit there and people don't want to spend 2 hours watching a half-hour anime or any show for that matter. They don't want to have to sit there and stop and keep reading, or only be able to read part of it, be able to catch part of it as the subtitles go by. So that's the whole thing about the dubbing. You dub it, they dub it into your own language, and so So, anyways, let's go ahead. As discovered upon the sequel series, um, on the as discovered upon the sequel series October 11th premiere, instead of Price, the full bring wielding hero is now voiced by Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 VA Elaine Mesa, who, like Chad, is of Mexican descent. Now, mind you, when I was watching Bleach, I never even thought he was. I mean, it's only been more recently that I've heard that he's like half. I think he's half Mexican, half Japanese. So if you're sitting there saying, "Oh, you know, if you're is casting a full Mexican any more wrong then because technically, if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna sit there and okay, let's just cast people based on what the character actually looks, even though you're voicing a character, okay, you're providing a voice to the character. The character could have your voice just speaking in another language. Anyways, keeping radio silent on the matter for nearly a month, Price eventually revealed the reason for his departure from one of his most notable roles on November 3rd, which was this past Thursday. And we've been hearing a lot about many voice actors doing this. I know I'm looking at a related article here, headline here, as you can see there, and I covered that article too. Allison Court, who was the original voice for Jubilee in the X-Men 90s, the 90s X-Men series, said she was not going to, reprise her role for the same reason, basically because since Jubilee was of Chinese American descent, or therefore she wanted a Chinese, Anyways, so here's what Jameson had to say about this. Quote, to all the many fans of Bleach, I have loved being a part of the Bleach universe and voicing Chad, unquote, explained the voice actor via his personal Twitter account. Quote, it was a difficult decision to say no to coming back for a 1,000-year blood war, but I no longer audition for roles of people of color. Yeah, so he basically doesn't want to make money. He doesn't want to make money. He'd rather virtue signal. Quote, representation matters, unquote. He added, quote, access matters. Oh, brother. So then if that's how you really feel, then maybe, something. Here's a thought, Jameson. Maybe you should just give back all the money you made over the years to the Japanese people. Because you're basically voicing many non-white Japanese people. This whole virtue signal garbage is so stupid. It's you never had a problem with it until now. That was just for those who are sitting there trying to virtue signal. They're a bunch of lame brains. Virtue signal just to get brownie points with the wokest. Yeah, that's really going to make the world better. It's going to make your world better, right? Giving up all that revenue and all that money so you can virtue signal. Quote, I have had access to a wide variety of roles in my career, unquote, said Price. Quote, actors use their imaginations and their experience to breathe life into the characters we portray. We get to walk in someone else's skin for a time. We practice empathy, we feel, and we learn, unquote. Quote, access to opportunity in anime has not been equal, unquote, he continued. Quote, but that has changed. By stepping aside now, I open the door of access to give people to give opportunity to an actor who can represent Yasutora Sato with the same love and pride and imagination, but with more life experience than I have. Well, first off, here's the problem with that too. Okay, here's a problem with that reasoning. Okay, Yasu Tora Chad Sato. Yes, he may be half Mexican. He's half Japanese, half Mexican. Okay, he's a half Jap. He's a Japanese person who's lived in Japan. Okay, so if you're really gonna go there, okay, if you're gonna go there with that virtue, then what you need to find is somebody who is not a full Mexican, somebody who's half Mexican, half Japanese, who's lived in Japan. What, you're just gonna hand over a role to somebody who's Mexican just because you feel like you have to? Kind of ridiculous. Kind of a ridiculous. Kind of just this whole virtue signaling thing is ridiculous. Because even if you're handing it over to a Mexican so you can be diverse there, that Mexican is not necessarily going to have the same life experiences as Chad. If you're really going for quote unquote true representation, okay? Somebody who is half Japanese, half Mexican, who's living in Japan, their life experiences would be entirely different from, let's say, somebody who's a full Mexican who's lived in either Mexico or even in the United States. Okay, if you're going with the whole, oh, we got to be completely and truly, totally represented, then you know, then in promoting the Mexican half of his heritage, you're denying the Japanese half of his heritage. So by maybe your own reasoning, it almost makes you sound like you're racist against Japanese people. You know, you put his Japanese heritage, down to elevate his Mexican heritage. And yes, that's another form of racism. So drawing this thread to a close, Price asserted, quote, thank you for all the love and support you have shown me over the years, unquote. And as fans, quote, please welcome Elaine Mesa to the role of Chad. He's got some big shoes to fill. Yeah. Well, again, Jameson, maybe if you feel that way, maybe you should give back all the money you made from the role then. If that's how you truly feel, maybe you should just, maybe you should sell your house, sell all your possessions, and you know, really feel that way. Ultimately, the voice actor concluded his tweet. I guess I forgot to put a word in there. They quote from poet Maya Angelou reciting, quote, "Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better." Notably, it appears Price's decision to decline non-white roles is a relatively recent one, as he has appeared as the voice of ex- explicitly explicitly Japanese characters as recently as 2021, which is true. Yes. Again, he's a part of the same group that's been around for the last 35 years that includes Wendy Lee, Steve Bloom, Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, the Fawn family, Richard Epcar. Um, all these people have been around for quite a while. Okay. So these include Ryuji Seijima in Akiba's Trip, Sojiro Sakura in Persona 5 Strikers, and Japanese God of Fire Kagutsuchi Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne HD Remaster. Yes, he's been around for quite a while, so I mean, I think people would. I mean, if he felt like he's done his work and all that, and he decided to retire and not take on any more roles, and decide just to step away from because he wants to give younger actors a chance. That's fine, but to sit here now and go, well, I'm not doing these roles anymore because I'm white and I don't think I should. Yeah, it's stupid. Bleach: Thousand Year Blood War is now airing via simulcast on Hulu and Disney Plus. So, yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of articles here that I've covered previously. But to sit there and virtue signal like that is just kind of ridiculous, especially when you you've had such a long career and all of a sudden you just decide, oh, I'm not going to do this anymore. I mean, it's one thing to retire and like give younger talent a chance to do things, but really. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and get ready to move on to the next article then. This one I kind of found it does cover across comic book, movies, and everything. Let me see where are we at. All right, so let's see what this one has to say. So, former Lucasfilm director of publishing Lucy Autry Wilson, reveals George Lucas informed her, quote, "The Emperor would never have been cloned." Article by John F. Trent, published this past Friday the 4th, in the books, comic books, and movie section here. So, former Lucasfilm director of publishing Lucy Autry Wilson recently revealed that Star Wars creator George Lucas informed her that, quote, the Emperor would never have been cloned. In a new interview with Star Wars Interviews, Wilson spoke about how she joined Lucasfilm, her creation of the Star Wars publishing program, and whether or not the expanded universe was ever intended to be canon or not. First, in a series of questions about the expanded universe, Wilson shared her opinion that the expanded universe was never meant to be canon. She explained, quote, our expanded universe, books, and comics were never intended to be canon. Only what George wrote was canon. So basically, the original Star Wars movies and Star Wars, that was the only thing that was like the main universe, the main Star Wars universe. All the other stuff was probably, just separate canon altogether. What she's saying there. Quote, we tried to keep an internal consistency so our writers did not contradict anything George had created or anything any of our other writers had added, unquote, she relayed. The Dark Empire trilogy. When asked how involved Lucas was with the publishing program that originally involved comics and books, Wilson revealed, quote, in the beginning, George was not very involved. He had given me and my group the freedom to develop stories in the future so as not to compete with what he planned to do in the past, unquote. All right, makes some sense. She continued, quote, he was getting copies of all the comics and books only after they were published. After he read the Dark Horse trilogy, Dark Empire, he mentioned to me that the Emperor would never have been cloned. Quote, I realized then I needed to pre-clear major plot points with him, so for each new storyline, I sent him memos with yes or no questions to get his input before we went too far astray. Unquote. Well, okay, that's nice. So she was trying to keep in line with George's vision. So that was good. She wasn't just taking his work and just putting her own spin on it as much, or at least putting her own ideological spin or anything like that. She was trying to be respectful to the original source material. We should applaud Miss Wilson for that. Ironically, after Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Walt Disney Company, the company's president, Kathleen Kennedy, claimed there was no source material for Star Wars in 2019. All right, that was probably an outright lie. But anyways, she told Rolling Stone, quote, every one of these movies is a particularly hard nut to crack. There's no source material. We don't have comic books. We don't have 800-page novels. We don't have anything other than passionate storytellers who get together and talk about what the next iteration might be. So basically, they took the Star Wars name and just decided to create their own thing with it. In essence, they basically stole the property. Sounds like from a creative standpoint, they pretty much stole the property. They decided to run with their own idea what Star Wars was, instead of, unlike Miss Wilson there, who was respectful to the original source material, Miss Kennedy was not. A month later, the Rise of Skywalker was released, and Disney revealed they took the cloned Emperor idea from Dark Empire and included it in the movie in order to have the Emperor survive and be an antagonist for Rey and Kylo Ren. So basically, she lied. They caught her in a lie right there. They said there wasn't any source material. Well, they just did the source material from the Dark Horse comics. So Kathleen Kennedy just lied right there. Anyways, Wilson also commented on how the Walt Disney Company turned her expanded universe publishing initiatives into legends back in 2014. If you recall, the official Star Wars website announced back in 2014, quote, in order to give maximum creative freedom to the filmmakers and also preserve an element of surprise and discovery for the audience, Star Wars episodes 7 through 9 will not tell the same story told in the post-Return of the Jedi expanded universe. Quote, while the universe that readers knew is changing, it is not being discarded, unquote. Well, that's not what it sounds like to me, based on what they attempted to reassure Star Wars fans. Quote, creators of new Star Wars entertainment have full access to the rich content of the expanded universe. For example, elements of the EU expanded universe are included in Star Wars Rebels, the Inquisitor, the Imperial Security Bureau, and the Shinar Fleet systems are story elements in the new animated series. And all these ideas find the origins in role-playing games material published in the 1980s. Quote, unquote. Quote, demand for past tales of the expanded universe will keep them in print, presented under the new Legends banner, unquote, they announced. Here's the Empire. All right. Wilson shared her thoughts on this announcement and the expanded universe being declared out of continuity. Quote, I knew they would do that way before they did it. It's not that it was no longer canon, it was that they were no longer going to try to coordinate new storylines to be consistent with what we had published. The continuity we had worked so hard on was being put aside. Mm-hmm. Yep. Again, just sounds like a company decided to take a big name, big IP like Star Wars, and just do their own thing with it. You know, they just decided to do their own thing with it. Just screw what came before. Just we're just gonna call it Star Wars and just put our own stuff on it. Quote, they didn't have much choice, unquote, she asserted, but we had developed so much of the universe it would have been very difficult to hire new talent until their hands were tied as to what they could do. There were lots more people getting into the action besides the novel and comic writers, including multiple film directors, TV developers, computer games, etc., which made things much more complicated, unquote. Quote, I think we were the luckiest being first because we were developing stories with little competition from others internally at Lucasfilm when there were very few limits on what could be done, unquote, she concluded. What do you make of Wilson's comment? Yeah, I think she was trying to be more respectful to the original source material, whereas Kennedy was not. That's how I would sum it all up. Alrighty then. So, and of course, as always, if anything, get ready to go up to our next article here. All right, so here's our last article that we're going to cover from Bounding into Comics. Here, this is more of a manga related article, as it were. But I do need to actually step away from the camera for a moment, so I'll be right back. But I will put some music on. As always, guys, if anything catches your attention in any of these articles, feel free to comment or ask questions. Anyways, I'll be right back. All right, so let's get ready to move on to this article here. All right, so One Punch Man and Mob Psycho 100 mangaka one announces new fantasy battle series versus. With those as popular as they are, versus it sounds like it might be very interesting as well here. The article by Nerdigans published this past Friday um, in the manga section. So, anyways, looking to trade in capes and psychic entities for swords and shields, world renowned One Punch Man and Mob Psycho 100 mangaka one. Now, mangaka, of course, is a manga writer, manga creator, all that. Um, has announced that serialization will soon begin for his first new original series in 10 years. Featuring an original story written by one, art by Azuma Kiyotaro, King of Fighters: A New Beginning, and composition by Bose of Kokume no Golem. Verses will transport audiences to a world where, quote, for hundreds of years, mankind has been oppressed by the rise and invasion of its natural enemy, the demon tribe, the great demon king, and its 47 demon kings. All right. King of Fighters. Quote, the people live in fear, but the 47 heroes selected from all over the world are named Yusha, and they are preparing to fight the Demon King's army. Unquote. Continue the series official synopsis. As shared in the latest issue of Monthly Shonen Serious and translated by T-Bell, quote, and now a desperate operation was about to begin that would put the very survival of the human race at stake. Following the publication of the above announcement, one himself took to his personal Twitter to announce, quote, with the help of Mr. Azuma Kiyotaro and Mr. Bose, I'm going to start a new serial on Monthly Shonen Serious. Quote, I am unquote. So, quote, I am writing the original text and designing some of the characters, unquote. He confirmed. Quote, please look forward to it. Unquote. Yeah. One partner in crime on the One Punch Man manga, artist Yusuke Murata, also took to Twitter to share his excitement about his partner's new serialization. In addition, not only praised Kyotaro's artistic talent, but also gave the series his full endorsement. Quote, whoa, it's a new serial from by one sensei, Narada declared, unquote. Narada declared, quote, and it's drawn by Azuma Sensei, whose super drawing ability is on full display in Tenkaichi. Too gorgeous. This is a must read. Unquote. All right. Here's some of the artwork there. Did anybody come on yet? Nope. Unfortunately, with this new series on the horizon, it seems unlikely that the One Punch Man webcomic will return from hiatus anytime soon. Versus is slated to make its serialization debut in Kodansha's monthly shonen series, beginning in issue, I guess, January 2023 of the magazine on November 26th. I guess January 2023 is the cover date for it, I guess. All right, so there we go with that one. Um, go with that article. So we'll get ready to go on to the next one here. Go see if we can. And I'm just gonna see if I can get his attention here. See if all right. So, anyways, hmm. So here we go. Okay, so here we go with the next article here. So this will probably be our last main article of the night. So see what we got here. Alien Nai for Indiegogo. Now Nai means near is just a fancier way of saying near for those of you who may not know. Submitted by RJ Carter on Monday the 7th. 12, now again, I don't know that 12 midnight on Central Time or Pacific. All right, so here we go. For the past handful of years, there have been two major players in the arena of crowdfunding projects: Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Over the past few weeks, the San Francisco-based Indiegogo has gone eerily silent while its platform has been exhibiting nasty behavior. Questions arose about the platform when graphic novel and comic book campaigns were apparently being shadow banned, a term for when a campaign on the site is not actively being promoted. However, in its elevated form, shadow banning can also prevent a shopper from finding the campaign using Indiegogo's own search function. Two current examples of this are Private American by Mike Barron and Frog G Voodoo and Frog G Voodoo Gods and Magic by Jason Bascom. Two projects, should say projects, not project, which can only be reached on Indiegogo through having a direct link to the project. Indiegogo does state within its terms of service that it is not obligated to include your project in their search function or promote your book, which begs the question why you would be paying them 5% of your total take on a successful campaign instead of running your book on your own WordPress site with a PayPal store, both of which are free. Or just go over to Kickstarter. I mean, if they're why would you, if they're not going to help you they're not going to help you promote your book, why should you be paying them? That really makes very little sense. You have to pay them to have it on their site, but they're not going to help you promote it. I mean, that makes absolutely no sense, because that's taking money. That's ultimately taking money out of there. If your campaign doesn't succeed, they don't get any money either. They don't get, if you don't get money, they don't get money. That makes absolutely no sense to do that. Absolutely no sense. And of course, as always, if you guys can like and share the stream, help get the word out, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything in here catches your attention, feel free to comment or ask questions. Anyways, continuing on here, things took a more harrowing turn this weekend, however, when Google itself could no longer find these campaigns on Indiegogo, indicating that the pages could not be crawled by the massive internet search function. Wow, it almost does sound like Indiegogo might be shutting down, doesn't it? Is it that they're shadow banning, or is it that they're just, or is it that maybe the site itself is just going down, like down in flames? Almost have to. In the above illustrations, the Google search keyword, quote unquote, site, was used to direct the search engine to only look at Indiegogo for results. The returned links were to several other campaigns with the description belonging to the shop for page, presumably because the campaign had been promoted on those pages at the time Google archived the page, and perhaps because the database indexes on the Indiegogo database have been corrupted? If so, is this the result of a glitch in the system, failure of hardware, a database engineer trying to shadow ban a project and inadvertently fouling up the data linkage in the process? Whoa! Talk about corruption. That almost sounds like maybe Indiegogo is becoming corrupt. Hmm. And I don't know if the third person's RJ or not, but if you have anything you'd like to add to this, feel free to do so, my friend. Anyways, like dozens of others, Critical Blast has reached out to Indiegogo to get their comment on this developing story. Indiegogo did. Okay, I think you forgot to put a T in there. Did not return our invitation for comment. And has not offered any public statements in regards to the project specifically mentioned here or several others that are currently in a similar limbo status. All right, so you have to kind of wonder what's going on there. Is the site having problems? Is somebody, messing around with it, or what? That is kind of a worrisome thing right there. It does kind of beg the question as to whether or not anything is really truly going on there. So, anyways, it looks like we're coming up a little short here, so I think I might try to find some other. Go over to CBR to see what we can find. First, look through the. These are 1 day ago. We'll cover that one. And it looks like we have some new release, but we'll do those tomorrow because those will probably take quite a those take quite a while. But I will go ahead and do this one because this one sounds. This one, I guess, is something that a lot of comic fans will probably want to know here. Alrighty then. So here we go. Kevin O'Neill, comic artist and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen co-creator, died. Kevin O'Neill, the iconic British artist who co-created League of Extraordinary Gentlemen with Alan Moore, has passed away. And we've been talking a lot about Alan Moore lately. Article by Brian Cronin, published 8 hours ago. Kevin O'Neill, the legendary British comic book artist, who was already a comic book institution from his work on Nemesis, the Warlock, and martial law in the 1980s, before he launched his most famous project, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, in 1999, with Alan Moore, has passed away at the age of 69. O'Neill first went to work for International Publishing Company, IPC, when he was a teenager as an office boy. But he slowly began to work in the art departments of various children's magazines for IPC. But that wasn't the direction he saw his art career going. So when he learned that IPC was launched a science fiction themed comic book anthology 2000 AD, he soon found work on that series, even contributing artwork to the cover of the very first issue of the series. Initially, he just did spot illustrations, like illustrating the occasional text story. His first full story for the company was a Judge Dredd story for the 1977 Judge Dredd Summer Special. O'Neill, 69, so that would have meant he would have been born, I believe, back in 1953, I believe. That would have been, so 1977 Judge Dredd, so 77, so he would have been about 24 then. And 47 in 2000. O'Neill signed his story, becoming one of the first 2000 AD creators to actually get credit for their work. O'Neill's first regular feature, though, did not occur until 1978, 2000 AD. So he was 25 then. Prague 88. When he and writer Pat Mills brought the Roadbusters to 2000 AD. O'Neill had designed the characters for Star-Lord magazine, a sister magazine to 2000 AD, but he did not draw the feature until came to 2000 AD. So here's some piece from 2000 AD, and look at that. 2000 AD and Star-Lord, they do the impossible, stop the Vulgans. Look at that. They got the whole, Fox feature graphic going on there. Mills was a very experimental writer, and in 1980, he did a series of stories inspired by rock songs. One of them, Terror Tube, introduced a character known as Nemesis the Warlock. Warlock perfectly matched O'Neill's propensity for grotesque characters and situations. The character was soon one of 2000 AD's most popular characters, almost to the same level as Judge Dredd. The new attention brought more scrutiny to O'Neill's intentionally over-the-top depiction of violence in the strip. Now, one of the most popular artists on the series, O'Neill left the anthology as a regular contributor to go freelance. In parentheses here, he would still return to do occasional stories, including more Nemesis the Warlock tales, officially leaving the book period after wrapping up Nemesis the Warlock in 2000. O'Neill first collaborated with the legendary comic book writer Alan Moore, another British comic book creator, who had begun to work in American comics on a backup story in an issue of DC science fiction series Omega Man. The pair then did a story For the 1986 Green Lantern Corps annual, this story proved controversial as O'Neill later revealed that the Comics Code Authority specifically objected to O'Neill's art style period. That Comics Code was still pretty strong back then. Well, I was working on an Alan Moore story. The CCA objected not the actual story, but to the style it was drawn in. Well, they don't like blood and gore, and they haven't for a long time there, Mr. O'Neill. O'Neill said, quote, I had aliens being crucified and stuff like that. My editor asked if we could run it with a code sticker. We toned down the crucifixion. Well, okay, the crucifixion scene would have probably gotten a lot of CPA would have another reason CPA might have objected is because they knew if they left the crucifixion in there, they would probably got a lot of heat from the Christian fan base, Christian portion of the fan base. They would have probably naturally objected to the use of the crucifixion. They said there was nothing they could do to the artwork that would help. I love that. I love the idea that these old grannies were sitting in an office in New York poring over every comic page. It was 1950s. Well, yeah, that's when that's when the Comics Code Authority came into effect, dude. Uh, yeah, just checking something here real quick. All right, so getting back to article here. The annual simply ran without the Comics Code. O'Neill never drew another Comics Code approved book in his career. In 1987, which would have put him about 34 at the time, O'Neill reunited with his Nemesis the Warlock collaborator, Pat Mills, to launch a brand new creator-owned collaboration for Epic Comics called Martial Law, a satirical take on superheroes where the title character, Martial Law, would hunt down rogue superheroes, basically a way for Mills and O'Neill to violently kill parodies of famous superheroes. Oh, that probably went over well. After leaving Epic, O'Neill and Mills would continue doing new martial law comics for various publishers well into the 90s. In 1999, Alan Moore launched a new comic book line, America's Best Comics, at Wildstorm Studios for Image. A number of the titles were work for hire for Wildstorm, but one of the titles, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, was creator owned, and it was this project that Moore chose O'Neill to create with him. The series was about a Victorian quote unquote superhero team made up of famous characters from Victorian era novels like The Invisible Man and Dracula. The series soon expanded into an extended look at popular culture throughout the centuries. Moore and O'Neill worked on for Wildstorm, and then Top Shelf for the next 20 years. For Alan Moore retired from comic book writing The pair also did Cinema Purgatorio for Avatar. O'Neill joked that when Moore retired, he effectively retired O'Neill, as well as he only wanted to work with Moore. However, he ultimately agreed to do some more stories for Pat Mills and then some work with writer Garth Ennis. Recently, Ennis resurrected an old humor character that O'Neill had created for 2000 AD in the late 1970s called Bongo. Their collaboration, Bongo from Beyond the Stars, will come out in 2000 AD next month. O'Neill had been dealing with a long illness before his passing. He will be greatly missed by the entire comic book community. All right, so let's see where we're at now in time. Let's see. We have a third person here. Hello, third person. Hopefully, you're enjoying the content thus far. If you can like and share this thing, see if we can get some more people in here. And if anything here catches your attention, feel free to comment or ask questions. I'll do my best to answer the questions as best I can. Oh, let's see. So now with that, let's go ahead and actually check the television to see if there's any like animated stories, like cartoon stories to look at for anything there. So, I was trying to see if there's any animated um articles. Well, this looks kind of like an animated story, so go ahead and look at this one here. Zootopia's new Disney Plus series debut first trailer. Disney Plus drops the first trailer for its upcoming series of shorts based on the world of Zootopia, just days ahead of the show's premiere. Article by Julie Anderson, published 10 hours ago. So, or like kind of a computer animated um, series here. Computer graphic. CGA. Um, Disney Plus dropped the first trailer for its upcoming series, Utopia Plus, just days ahead of the show's premiere. A brand new trailer showcases snippets from the six-episode series, a short based on the wildly successful Zootopia. These include the real rodent of Little Rodentia, Duke the Musical, The Godfather of the Bride, Hop on Board, and So You Think You Can Plant. Each episode focuses on supporting characters from the original film. The series premieres on November 9th only on Disney Plus, which is this Wednesday. Revisiting Zootopia's supporting characters. See if there's any comments here or anything like that. Yeah. Oh, yes. Revisiting Zootopia's supporting characters. Each episode tackles events that transpired during the time of the original film. Hop on Board follows Judy Hopps' parents as they try to catch up with their youngest daughter Molly. After she gets on top of the train taking her big sister to Zootopia. The Real Rodents of Little Rodentia parodies The Real Housewives. Okay. Reality television series as it follows a newly engaged Frou Frou and her friends as she plans for her wedding. Meanwhile, Duke the Musical reveals what happened after Judy captured the slippery weasel criminal and how it led to him reevaluating his life. The godfather of the bride continues Frou Frou's wedding adventures, this time putting her father, the godfather inspired Mr. Big, in the spotlight as he recounts his youth in his father of the bride speech. The fifth episode, So You Think You Can Prance, takes another turn towards reality TV as Chief Bogo auditions on the show of the same name for a chance to dance on stage as Zootopia's pop superstar Gazelle. Final episode, Dinner Rush, depicts a waitress as she tries to hurry through the last service of the day in order to get to Gazelle's concert on time after a pair of sloths arrive for dinner. So you got a lot of these interacting stories, stories going. Speaking with CDR at the time, um, the film's first theatrical release, co-directors Rich Moore and Byron Howard said they wanted to explore more of the utopian world at some point. Quote, "It would be so cool," unquote, Howard said. "There's so much and stuff we talked about that we never got to incorporate. We were saying this earlier. You get to go to Sahara Square a little bit in the movie. There's a whole dune arena we had in celebration. Parts of the film we cut out. Um, just a rainforest district in the Sahara Square in Tundra Town are such neat areas that are worlds in themselves where you could do a whole movie in Sahara Square. Utopia Plus premieres on November 9th on Disney Plus with 6 planned episodes. Courtesy YouTube, source YouTube. So let's see now. So now we're 23. So let me just finish this area off and then we will see if there's any more animated stories. If not, we'll probably just move on to uh, the wrestling wrap up. We have quite a bit of episodes there. All right. So yeah. So basically, we're done with articles, and we're gonna go ahead and start moving things along here. Um, so go over some wrestling news, as it were. The wrestling wrap up here. So of course, this past weekend, the Crown Jewel happened over in Saudi Arabia, where the WWE went over there. As many people know, the main event saw Roman Reigns defending the undisputed titles against against Logan Paul. We will kind of go over the. Of course, there was only one title change, and that was the. So basically, you had. So basically, the results include Brock Lesnar defeated Bobby Lashley, potentially setting up one more match, kind of the tiebreaker match. Damage Control of Dakota Kai and Io Sky became two-time champions as they defeated Alexa Bliss and Asuka for the women's tag team title. Drew McIntyre defeated Karrion Kross in a steel cage match in which he claimed that he's finished with him. In the six-man tag match, saw Judgment Day of Finn Balor, Dominic Mysterio, and Damian Priest defeating Yoshi of AJ Styles and the Good Brothers, of course, with the help of Rhea Ripley's interference. Braun Strowman defeated Omos. Now, there are a couple of stories that came out of that. First off, Omos, of course, did not have his manager MVP in his corner. Now, what was revealed earlier today was part of the reason why they wrote him off and he did not go to Saudi Arabia because there was a risk that he might be arrested. MVP was, of course, formerly a Muslim, but is now an atheist. Apparently, you do something like that, and you could be arrested for that, apparently, in Saudi Arabia. One of the big stories. And another one came out from Braun Strowman. Apparently, some people not happy with some comments he made. So after his match with Omos, he went on social media and bragged about how their match was good and basically just cut down a lot of the quote unquote floppy floppers, as he called them. A lot of the smaller guys who just sit there and who just the more athletic guys are guys who we do see a lot more high flying from. Basically had a lot of criticism for those kind of wrestlers. And a lot of them did that, guys including Mustafa Ali, Chris Jericho, and many others did not take too kindly to his comments. The Monster of Monsters, of course, is a former WWE champion. And this could be something that could kind of shortcut his his time in his new time in the company here. Also, the Usos retained the Raw and SmackDown tag titles over the Brawling Brutes of Butch and Ridge Holland. Bianca Belair retained the Raw Women's title, a last woman standing match. Now, for Bianca Belair and Bayley, Bayley was who she took on. This would mark. There's a couple of records that were set here. First off, the two of them set a record for being the only women to have been involved in a last woman standing match, a Hell in a Cell, and a ladder match. The only women to have participated in all three of those style matches. And from what I understand, too, from one of the other things I heard, Bianca also set a record as being the only woman, I guess, to participate in all the shows that they've had at in Saudi Arabia. So I believe that was the case. And then the main event, of course, saw Roman Reigns retain the WWE and Universal title over the undisputed title over Logan Paul. So that's all the WWE news. Going back to talking about some AEW news, as AEW continues to prepare for next weekend's Full Gear pay-per-view. Come on. Of course, this past Friday was they had a live version of Rampage, in which they saw on the card. Yeah, you had that Orange Cassidy defend the All Atlantic title in a dream match against Katsuyori Shibata, in which um, in which he retained the title. And in a great show of respect after the match, they shook hands. Um, Mike Tyson, of course, was there to commentate on the event there. Also, in the main event, saw Ward Joe, Samoa Joe and Wardlow defeat Pete Magany. And in many ways, there were a few things that came out of this too. Powerhouse Hobbs came out to confront Wardlow over the TNT title, but an incident happened that maybe dropped a hint at a possible heel turn for Joe, um, as Hobbs was coming up to confront Wardlow. Wardlow kind of shoved Samoa Joe aside, and it would appear that Joe did not take too kindly to that. You could see it, I guess, in his body language. He was not too fond of being kind of just shoved aside. Even if it was because of the situation with Hobbs. So there is a possible hint at a heel turn here going on. But also, there's still talk, of course. Now, another thing that came out over the weekend as well is apparently in an interview, Billy Corgan, the president of the, of course, Smashing Pumpkin fame, as well as the president of the NWA, came out and said that despite everything to the contrary, he believes CM Punk will be able to make amends with AEW, and he won't be leaving their company. Albeit reports have been saying that that it looks like CM Punk is on his way out, but I guess we'll just wait and see. And I have some NWA news to talk about too in a moment here. So with that, let's also go ahead and take a look at some Impact Wrestling news. All right. All right. So now also for next weekend for Impact Wrestling, they're they're of course continuing the prep for their Overdrive event, which will be 1 week from this Friday on the 18th. So matches already announced for Overdrive on the 18th include for Frankie Kazarian exercising option C, which is when you decide to give up a title in order to get a shot at the world title. Now, Frankie Kazarian had defeated Mike Bailey at their last pay in Bound for Glory, only to use it to invoke option C, to voluntarily give up the X Division title in order to get a shot at Josh Alexander, which will be coming up at Overdrive next week. And because, of course, the X Division title was vacated, the, um, the finals of that tournament, a new X Division champion will be crowned at Overdrive next Friday. Now, thus far, advanced, for the participants in the tournament included Black Taurus and Laredo Kid. Um, let's see, Iya Umura and PJ Black. Most of you would remember PJ Black as Justin Gabriel from his time in the WWE. Trey Miguel um, and Alan Angel and Mike Bailey and advancing to the semifinal rounds where Black Taurus, PJ Black will be taking each other on in their next round, and Trey Miguel and Mike Bailey. Basically, you're going to have in one of those two with Trey Miguel and Mike Bailey both seeking to advance to the finals in terms of being the two most recent X Division champions of Orphan's area. You also have for the Impact World Tag Team titles, you have Heath and Rhino defending the recently won tag titles from the Kingdom, who storyline wise were recently fired, but their contract had been up and they had signed with AEW, taking on the major players of Matt Cardona and Brian Myers. And then the Death Dolls of Jessica and Valkyrie will be defending the Impact Knockout Tag Team titles against Savannah Evans and Tasha Steele. And then Bully Ray takes on Moose, try to settle their issues, and Bully Ray is trying to focus on cashing in his recent gauntlet. Hey, Rick! Thanks for dropping in. You kind of missed most of the articles, but we're kind of winding things down here. So, finishing up here. Let's see now. With that, let's look at some of the things that occurred on this past Thursday's edition of Impact. As we mentioned, of course, Mike Bailey, one of the ones who advanced in the tournament to crown the new X Division. Savannah Evans would defeat Jessica, basically leading into the, basically getting the shot at the Impact. Sami Callihan would defeat Eric Young via DQ when new members of Violence by Design were introduced, as Connor, formerly of the WWE, and Alan Angels would end up joining Violent by Design, helping to jump Sami Callihan. Ace Austin would get a measure of revenge for Moose's interference in the previous week's match between Chris Bay and Tommy Dreamer, in which Moose attempted to interfere with the match and get fully really blamed, again leading into that matchup. And then, of course, opponents who were tag team this past week, the Impact World Champion Josh Alexander and Frankie Kazarian defeated Aussie Open in the main event of last week's. So now, some NWA news is this weekend. The NWA will be having its Hard Times event in New Orleans. Matches already signed include, for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, Trevor Murdoch will be defending in a triple threat match against Tyrus, in another angle of a champion. So coming in this, Tyrus is the currently the NWA World Television Championship as well. But much like in Impact, NWA has a very similar similar policy where if you're a champion, you can voluntarily give up your title to get a world title shot. Tyrus is doing that to get a shot at Trevor Murdoch, and also Matt Cardona, as we said, will also be involved in that match. The World Women's title will be on the line in a triple threat match, as well as Camille defends against Kylan King and Chelsea Green. Now, Chelsea and Matt basically they kind of weaseled their way into these titles. The Cardonas weaseled their way into these title matches because Matt Cardona, who was the NWA World Champion earlier this year, was forced to relinquish the title due to being injured. But the only way he would relinquish the title would be for some guarantees later down the line. And he's basically calling fellow favors in now. And Chelsea's getting another shot as well. Also, Kion defends the NWA National Heavyweight Championship against Jack Draper. Homicide defends the World Junior Heavyweight Championship against future legend Kerry Morton, the son of Ricky Morton. The World Women's Tag Team Champion, Pretty Empowered, will be defending the World Women's title against Maddie and Mr. Kate. Maddie and Mr. Kate earned this shot on a recent edition of USA with an upset victory over Ella Envy and Cindy Bates. Now, Ella Envy has been somewhat on a losing streak of late, first losing a triple threat match to her partner Kenzie Page and their acolyte Roxy. Will this come back to bite them in their match? Maddie and Mr. Kate had pinned Ella Envy in a tag match to earn this shot in what many consider to be an upset. Also, the newly crowned United States Tag Team Champions, the Fixers, Jay Bradley and Wrecking Ball Legursky, will be defending against the Spectaculars of Brady Pierce and Russ Freeman. Now, some controversy happened recently on a recent edition of USA, and Billy Corgan had wanted to switch out the U.S. title, the U.S. titles that Fixers were currently holding, to have them utilize a new belt design. And apparently, Wrecking Ball did not want to switch out the belt. Now, when I was watching this segment, you almost got the impression that Legursky may not have fully understood what was going on. And I knew that Billy was probably wishing that Jay was out there at that point in time, but Jay was the very important match himself. And then also, Colby Corino will be trying to win the Major League Wrestling National Openweight title held by J.D. Richards. And then also you have Tom Latimer taking on EC3 in a singles match, and in a casket match, in a Voodoo Queen casket match, Maxie Impaler will be taking on Natalia Markova. So, quite a few things going on here at Hard Times this weekend. So, stay tuned for that. So, with that, probably now start to wind things down. With that, now we can go ahead. Today being Monday, October the 7th, 2022. Why don't we go ahead and take a look back at this day and this day in news history. History! Anyways, um, let's get started here. First off, I'm going to head back 30 years ago today, as on this day, 30 years ago today, a wrestler going. Now, there is a little bit of reason for this distinction here. On this date, 30 years ago today, somebody going by the ring name Dirty White Boy. Now, this is not Tony Anthony. There was a wrestler in the southeastern part of the United States, most notably Smoky Mountain, named Tony Anthony, who went by the name Dirty White Boy. But this was not him. This is a different person who went by that name. Um, who would, on this date 30 years ago today, defeat John Rambo for the Championship Wrestling USA TV title. Yes, believe it or not, there was a professional wrestler named John Rambo, as in the same name of Sylvester Stallone's character. So on this date, a wrestler by the name using the name Dirty White Boy, not Tony Anthony, would defeat John Rambo for the Championship Wrestling USA TV title. Now, Championship Wrestling USA was an independent promotion based out of Portland. They essentially took over the territory that was formerly known as Pacific Northwest by the Owens Center. The company that was owned by Sandy Barr, who was, of course, the father, a referee for Pacific Northwest, and, of course, um, the father of Jesse Barr and Bart Barr, the late Bart Barr, who many of you would probably remember as a Brewster from his short time in WCW, as well as for 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 some Lucha Libre fans, I remember him as the American Love Machine, one third of Los Gringos Locos, um, comprising of Barr, Eddie Guerrero, and Conan down in Mexico. For those who might remember that. So, Coach, let's see. What's your favorite salad food? I have no idea, dude. No idea. I'm not sure. Not sure if it's a Texas dub or not. Could be. Pretty likely. Check real quick. Maybe check real quick. Might be because they're basically doing everything. The funny thing is, I actually did do a when they did do the cast announcement for that too. Actually did the story on that. Ryan Colt leave. Let's see. Well, Crunchyroll is so it is possible. Let's see. Ryan Colt Levy Young. Based on what little I can see here, yes, it does look like it probably is a Texas because granted, for the most part, I don't recognize most of these names. Of the two I do recognize, Sarah Wiedenheft and Lindsay Seidel, who are both based out of Dallas. So, voice director Mike. Yeah, it is a Texas dub. Mike McFarlane's doing the voice direction. He's, of course, based out of Texas. So yes. So, anyways, getting ready to move on to the next piece of niche history. Let's see, 2017. On this date, 5 years ago today, from Amazon Studios production of If You Give a Mouse a Cookie premiered on Amazon Plus on this date back in 2017. So on this date, 5 years ago today, the Amazon Studios, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie animated series premiered on Amazon Video on this date in 2017. And on this date in 2018, the 5th issue of Farmland from Image Comics went on sale on this date back in 2018. So Farmland, which is still apparently going, is still apparently going in is still going on. The 5th issue premiered on this date, or went on sale on this date 40 years ago. It sold for $3.99 and was 28 pages. So there we go, guys. So I hope you all enjoyed the show tonight. Hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Don't forget, this Friday, of course, Rick Piper from Cross Comics will be joining me as my co-host. We continue our look back at this day in niche history. Or, I'm sorry, not this day. I'm sorry. As we look back to comic history, back to books that went on sale in June of 1939. We'll be looking at Fox feature publications, of course, introducing you to some, Mystery Men Comics #1. Introducing you to characters like Green Mask, the Blue Beetle, Zanzibar, the Magician, as well as we're looking back at the Flame as well. And for those of you in the States here, if you haven't yet, don't forget, tomorrow's election day. So if you haven't yet, go out and vote. Your voice, you always have a right to have your voice heard. Anyways, until tomorrow, bye.